Hi, everyone. Welcome to Out in the Open with Open Arms. Yes, we do have mics now. Things are getting fancy. Happy holidays. I hope your Thanksgiving was amazing. Mine certainly was. I had Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving, and someone today told me something about Shrimpsgiving. How was yours?
It was great. It was great.
Have you heard of Shrimpsgiving before?
No, I haven't.
I want to be all over that. I love shrimp.
I do too.
Oh my God.
I want to hear more about that.
I was like, Thanksgiving is not very happy with all these varieties of holidays. But last episode, this is actually the fifth the fifth episode of Out in the Open with Open Arms. And the last one we had Robert Terenzio, who is a reproductive attorney, and we thought how fitting to have him here right around the Halloween time. I thought the legal aspects of this process can be very scary.
Yes.
So he did a great job talking about legal process, why you need a contract, why you need a reproductive attorney, specialist in this field to kind of walk you through the legal process going through the surrogacy and egg donation. So since then, we decided that the next step should be talking to a psychologist. So I'm inviting my dear friend, Dr. Janice Young. Welcome.
Thank you.
So good to have you here.
Glad to be here.
So you and I have been working for a few years now.
Yes.
Quite a few years.
At least 5 years.
At least 5 years,
yeah.
I would say. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, a little bit about you, what you've done before, and maybe the transition into, the review,
working with Open Arms.
Yes, and kind of just helping intended parents, surrogate mothers, and egg donors.
Okay. I started out as a school teacher right after college, and luckily I was working at a very innovative school that down in the bayou country of Louisiana. But one of the things we did was reach out and make home visits as well to get to know the families and interact with the families of the kids, and it made such a difference in the classroom and the bonding and our understanding of basically these people were from a different culture. Basically, they were living in houses on stilts. They fish for shrimp. They trawled for shrimp for their living. But I realized, I loved working with the kids. I realized in interacting with their parents, I love talking to people, but I love listening to people. And the most rewarding part was getting to know people one-on-one and having the opportunity to interact that way. And that kind of drew me into psychology, which was going to be more one-on-one interaction and really wanting to be helpful and finding a way that I could personally be helpful and make a difference in someone's life.
So how did you make the transition into this field after?
After many years as a psychologist, I dealt with mostly pretty much adults throughout my career. I just happened to meet another psychologist who referred me or gave my name or hooked us up somehow.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh yeah, that sounds like really fun. And what I still remember the first surrogate referral I got. Just an amazing story. And I thought, what happy work this is.
Yes.
This is much of what a psychologist deals with is heartache, sadness, depression, tragic life stories and all that. And by the time I got to this stage of my career, I'm hearing hopeful, happy stories. Certainly the heartache stories of the intended parents who have tried multiple times and obviously have had much heartache before they reach out to Open Arms.
Yes.
But the hopeful aspect, to see what's at the end of this journey and the happiness, is a very different kind of work, and it's just really, really caught my heart.
Yeah, I love it when
it.
I love it when I have you here to meet with our intended parents, surrogates, or both. You're always lit up after the meeting.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And actually that energy just transfers to our clients, because when they come in, everybody's really nervous about meeting a psychologist. You are about to have your psych evaluation done today. We're gonna,
so intimidating.
I know. Are you certified crazy? No, it's like, relax. It's Janice coming, And I think when you come in so open and so relaxed and so welcoming, they open up to you, and they always feel great after a meeting. So it aligns with that happy, uplifting kind of part of the process when they work with you.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it so much, and everyone has just their life is their own wonderful story. I always liked to read as a kid growing up. Now I just have these wonderful live stories
coming
at me, and certainly in a process like this, intended parents or the surrogates are just so giving and wonderful. I mean, what better gift than the egg donors? It's just wonderful stories that I get to hear as I'm going through these evaluations, and then as I'm watching the intended parents.
A little over 5 years, you said you've been doing this, and the question I always get is that, for me, going on 16 years, the story comes in still new to me. I still hear things that are different. Do you think you heard it all or seen it all? And every time there is another story that warms your heart, breaks your heart, kind of makes you connect with their parents. Would you say the same thing now that you have done so many evaluations?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
So before we dive into, I have so much to talk to you about, but in general, I want to say, what is it that, what's the stigma around mental health care that you wish could change in general? Before we dive into what we do.
Yeah, that somehow talking to a mental health professional implies that crazy there's something
insane.
Crazy, there's something different about you that this person is going to find out. I think a lot of people feel like, they're meeting, they have to meet with me, they're going to find out something that will disqualify me. And that's just not what I'm about. I can tell a lot about a person just conversing with them, how comfortable how we can connect.
Right.
That's really what I'm looking for. Is this a person who can connect to this process? Do they understand what's going on? And I think the worst thing, there's no stigma to going to the doctor if you have strep throat.
Right.
But somehow going to a psychologist, there's something stigmatizing about that, and I wish that were not the case, because I think we all can benefit from having someone who wants to listen to us.
Talk to.
And I think everybody can benefit from hearing themselves tell their story to someone who doesn't have a vested interest in an outcome for you, like a parent, a close friend, relative, something like that.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes, honestly, you have those moments where I personally will talk to a friend, or, something is on my mind, and I'll start talking to her. And as I'm talking out loud, I hear myself differently. And I'm like, oh, now that I'm saying that out loud, A, B, and C,
that makes such a difference. You would not know until you experience it. Yeah.
So obviously I know, but I would love to hear from you. We always talk about how important having the support for our surrogate mothers to go through this process, to have the support of the family and friends, for our intended parents to have the support of family and friends. It's just a tough process to go through alone. But what's the difference between having friends to talk to, I'm doing this, versus having a counselor or a psychologist to walk you through the challenges that might come or you might be facing going through this process? I know you mentioned one of them being you might not be as open with a friend, because they know you.
Yeah, there may be confidential issues that you've never spoken to anyone about, never felt comfortable to speak with anybody about, or certainly observations about your family or your friend, pressure getting from a friend or something like that, things that that you could say to a person who doesn't have a vested interest in one of these other people, one way or the other. And I think that's really important. First of all, a person obviously needs to feel comfortable enough with me to open up about talking about anything.
Right.
And, my first rule is like there's no censorship. Try to relieve your censor and say the first thing that comes to mind here. Just let yourself open up and speak.
Yeah.
And I think you can't just do that. All the social cues are in place with friends and family, and certain things you just don't bring up. So I think in dealing with a professional, we're trained to listen and to hear it all and not be shocked.
Right.
And, I think my first job is to try to establish just a comfortable relationship with a person so they can talk openly to me, and so that they can actually hear themselves saying things and find their own answers. I'm not giving people answers or advice.
Right.
They're hearing themselves and learning.
You're just giving them that space to feel safe enough to be open and vulnerable and share with you. Let's talk about, obviously you have done psych evaluations for egg donors, for surrogate mothers, for intended parents. Walk me through how different each evaluation is and what it is that you're looking for. With obviously they all have different aspects of why they're coming to you. What is it that you focus on when you're talking to an intended parent versus when you're talking to a surrogate mother versus when you're talking to an egg donor?
Okay, let me figure that out.
This is like a 45-minute conversation.
Yeah. Well, the intended parents, I think, are very easy. By the time they have reached you and then filtered over to me, they obviously know what they're doing. They have considered everything possible that a person could consider. And one of the things I tell them, like, a couple gets pregnant. It's like, oh, we're pregnant. Okay, so we go about life. We start making preparations. These intended parents, for the most part, are so much more prepared because they have worked so long in this process. They have thought so carefully about, okay, how are we going to make arrangements for this baby physically, financially, emotionally, lifestyle changes, things that parents who don't have fertility issues, think about, but I think don't have most of the time that much time to think about it. We're talking about, what's the typical waiting time from a time an intended parent contacts you and the actual.
Well, obviously
years.
It could
I know
be years.
Some of them I have followed. We're like.
Yeah, I mean it's a lengthy process, and the other day we were just discussing this in our meetings that we are pretty much the last resort for heterosexual couples. So by the time they tried the insemination, the IVF, all sort of things, maybe an egg donor carrying their own pregnancy with an egg donor and whatnot, we are the last resort where they need an egg donor, a surrogate, or a combination of both. Right. So. It's quite lengthy. Yeah, so the intended parents, if it's a couple, I enjoy seeing their interaction, hearing them talk about, their plans in the early days of bringing the baby home, and it's nothing new to them. How they're going to communicate the history of this baby. To the baby.
That's a fun conversation.
That is a fun conversation.
And I think one of the best ones I ever remember hearing is. It was a male couple, and they had started a journal, scrapbook from day one, pictures and all, and that was going to be a photo journal book on their coffee table.
I love it.
And this baby, from the time he was toddling around, would be looking at that. That was his normal, her normal.
Yes.
And no surprises, and it would just evolve into an understanding.
I would love to come back to that. How about, how about the surrogate mother?
Surrogate mothers, I like to find out about their pregnancy experiences and how did you get the idea of becoming a surrogate? Where did that come from? And usually there is some. They tend to be very empathic people as a rule. There's been a family member or a close friend who had a serious fertility issue, or their heart went out to someone.
Right.
A lot of times when they were teens, even.
Oh, really?
And it becomes, like, oh, I would love to be a surrogate, or they've offered to carry for a family member or something like that. And they continue to do that search until they, find you on Facebook or on Google or something like that. But they also pretty universally love being pregnant.
Yes.
Love the feeling of nurturing a baby. And the other big issue that other people, when I tell them what I do, is like, oh, I couldn't carry a baby and then give it up.
Right.
So we have to talk about that issue. But I think all the women that I've spoken, and I always speak with them about that, they are very clear at the outset that they're carrying for someone else. And then I think the relationship they form as soon as they're matched, and then as that grows across the pregnancy, it just keeps that boundary very clear, like we're working together to give you a baby.
Right.
And I've never worked with anyone that I felt like had any ambivalence about, okay, I'm going to be giving up this baby. No, this is not my baby. I'm carrying this baby, and
you have to
for
have
this
that clear
happy,
understanding.
this is the greatest gift.
Yeah.
The one that I saw just recently, who was being a surrogate for the second time, just the joy. She said it was like nothing she had ever experienced when she saw the intended parents handed their baby that moment, and so she was right in there. I want to do this again. That's a life-changing event.
Do you look for a history of postpartum?
I always ask about that because I think any kind of complications you have to be aware of and address. And certainly postpartum can be a very dangerous thing.
Right.
And even emotional issues before delivery, you really just have to try to figure out if there's anything there lurking that could become, a problem. And and if anything does come up, I want to be available, of course.
Yeah.
Contact.
Right.
In any way I can be helpful.
Have you had that at all? Like when surrogates, after either during the course of the surrogacy pregnancy or after the delivery, reached out to you?
We've sort of stayed in contact sometimes. Like, this is going great,
right?
But not for help.
Not for help. Well, that's good.
But it's good.
Good.
But I'm always available, and I always tell everyone I would love to follow you through this if you feel like.
You are one of the very few that does that, and I love that about you.
I would. It's so exciting being in the room with them
and to kind of start it here when nothing was happening, and now you were pregnant or you delivered.
I want to hear all about it.
Yeah.
Sarasota, let me know. I'm going to come down and see. See
I
the
love
baby
that.
and see everybody in the hospital. But so I feel like I'm very emotionally invested when I meet the person, and would love to maintain the contact or hear the history. And there's still some I wonder about. I'll come in and I'll ask Kelly, hey, did
so get pregnant? Yeah. I love it. Switching gears to donors. That's someone obviously who's donating their eggs, and that's part of genetic material. How is that different in your evaluation to them? What is it that you're looking for to make sure they qualify and they're a good candidate to move forward with the process?
Yeah, interested in certainly their history, their physical history, but I know medical is covering that as well. But also the family history. What's the mental health? Family history, because that's going to factor in. Are there any things that could possibly be transmitted that would be, undesirable, that that we have to be upfront about. But their motivation is very interesting too. They're also, I think most of them, very altruistic women. Is like, have my period every month, my eggs go down the toilet.
I love it. Yeah. And
why
which is
not?
The fact.
Why
not help someone?
Yeah. And I always ask them, do you want to be known or do you want to be anonymous? And some of them, I didn't even realize, I hadn't even thought about that. And I tell them the story. One of the stories I had from a donor who was accidentally got to know the intended mother.
Oops.
And yeah, they were both at the clinic at the same time. Intended
my
mother kind of
God.
figured up as she's picking up the kid. I bet this,
Oh, no.
they became such good friends. She carried twins, or she
got pregnant with.
No, we're talking about the donors. So
Yes.
she donated eggs. They had twins, and then they asked her again. To donate for a singleton. She goes.
That could have been a potential disaster.
Yes.
That
Oh, I know.
Oh my
she
God.
goes to visit them. She's like the auntie.
I
you know,
love
so
it.
It's developed.
You know, we
into
recently had a post on our Facebook that we had a same-sex couple, and they were known to their donor and obviously to surrogate, and they made a point to meet with both of them, and we have a magical pictures of all four and the baby.
That is just the best story.
And they are like the best looking 4 people ever. It's like, this is not okay, you know? The donor, the surrogate, the parents themselves, and the baby is just so amazing, so amazing.
Yeah,
and
so
it's not always that we get all 4 parties in one
that's
picture.
right. And I understand a lot of people, want to keep it private.
Yes.
And they have concerns about, is this person going to come and claim
after
the baby?
yeah.
A lot of fears like that.
Based around it,
But certainly the ones where there has been, where the donor, where all 4 know one another, has been just a very rich experience from what I've heard.
Talking about known versus anonymous, and I want to go back to the idea of talking to the couple about their plans to share this with their baby. I see it very easy when it comes to same-sex couple.
Mm-hmm.
It's much less complicated. What are your suggestions for a heterosexual couple going through the process and using an egg donor? Surrogacy, it's not really a big deal.
Right.
The stigma sometimes kind of is around using an egg donor.
Mm-hmm.
Do you encourage them one way or another? Maybe it's okay to be open about it, or do you find them a little bit more resistant to sharing that part with the baby or the child?
Most of them are very want to be open with it from the beginning.
Really? Okay.
From early on. But I have had the other case where, like, okay, we're not sure what age we'll tell the child,
or if we're going to tell.
Yeah,
together.
if we're going to tell. I'm always a little wary of family secrets because they tend to leak out at some point.
They sure do.
At some point that might, create heartache and disaster down the line. So, but basically it's their personal choice.
Yeah.
But I think kids. Just from my own practice, people go through, late adolescence, maybe start wondering about, their parents. Who is my, what did my egg donor, or what did you call it? Mother look like? They start to wonder about their roots. And I think it's just a natural process. And I've even had patients who were adopted and didn't find out about it until after their parents were dead, and going through lengthy investigation. And as long as I knew, they never found out the answer. So we have this basic need to know. Not that we're going to go, I'm going to connect up with this person.
And you're right. Sometimes if you take that secrecy out, and you just, then the desire is not as strong anyway. But you keep it from them, and there's this whole trust issue that comes to play. I have a friend of mine that adopted 2 boys, and she was struggling. When should I say? When should I tell? When should I share this information? And she's reading books and all that, and then she finally set the boys down, and she said, you grew in my heart, not in my time. It's like, oh, okay. Can I go play now?
That's right. That's
she's
the way
like,
to do it.
Oh my God. Like, they just grab their bikes and gone. Like, in our mind, it's so much bigger, and she has this speech planned, and I'm going to sit down, we're going to talk about it. And like you said, the more aware you are about this, and the more open you are, and the less secretive you are, the better. And now there's tons of books that walks everybody through, okay, this is how you came to our life.
Right.
There's so many ways now to have a family. This is how you came to my life. And we're proud of it, and here it is. But it's not for everybody, you know. It's like you said, it's really a personal choice.
Yeah, I think my biggest concern is family secrets, because usually someone out there knows about it and could inadvertently mention it to the kid, you know, at age 20 or something like that. And
as long as it's after 13, because they hate you at 13.
That's right, anyway.
You don't want to give them another reason to.
Right. No, I think if it can evolve naturally, just like, you know, your friend told, okay, can we go play now? That, like, they were
easy. It's like,
fine,
okay,
so.
He was just looking. His
Ask,
friends are waiting, and it's like,
can we
go?
questions when they're ready, and then you'll follow their cues.
Yes, amazing. Well, so much too. This is just like fascinating to me. You know, this whole part of the process. Obviously, the other thing that we always think about is the holidays. You know, you have Thanksgiving, you have Christmas, and it's a time of joy for many, but it's also a time of grief for some.
Yeah.
What's the formula? You know, I mean, when you are going through this process, how do you deal with the holidays and the gathering and the children, and you're going through this process? What are your suggestions? You know, for intended parents, certainly.
Yeah, that focus on the hope and the expectation of joy.
Yeah.
That you're working toward.
Yeah.
You know, don't give in to discouragement. Be grateful for what you have. Gratitude, making connections with people who understand is very important. And certainly for intended parents, even if they haven't connected up with you, like, there is hope.
Right.
There is hope for having that family. You see all the other happy families, and you're sitting there with, you know, feeling bereft, feeling loss. You know, don't give in to the hopelessness, but stay focused on the hopeful possibilities and just the wonderful opportunities that we didn't have. Like, how long has this even been possible?
I know.
You know, not that many decades.
That's so true.
And you know, the heartache was much. It was an end of the road for so many people, just a while back.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely.
And now there's so much hope. And you know, I think the whole process with the donor, the surrogate, the intended parents, it's about giving. It's about sharing. It's about,
and that's what the holiday is all about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And thankfulness. And I think the intended parents are always, you know, so thankful to, you know, just beyond any expression, to their donor, to their surrogate.
Yes.
And for what better gift
I
can
can't.
someone
Yeah.
give? Yeah.
It's priceless. It's really priceless.
Yeah.
You know. What when someone is about to start this process, what advice would you give them? You know, whether it's either party, especially for surrogate mothers, let's say, you know, someone who probably has their own children, family, job, and they're going to add on the responsibility of going through this process, and you know it's not easy. What would your advice be for someone who is looking to be a surrogate mother, for example?
Well, one of the things I tell them is to look on Facebook, talk with or connect with, find out about other people who have
gone through the process.
Because I think that's the best way to get information, firsthand information, to see if it's really right for you, see how you manage all the additional responsibilities and still have a life.
Right.
You know, what's the impact on your family, on your family's lifestyle? And I've heard wonderful stories from the surrogates how just this has become a whole family venture. And and then when the intended parents arrive and the baby arrives, it's just an extended and expanded family. Right. And just a lot of happiness that way. So I think someone considering being a surrogate needs to consider how their own pregnancy experience, how they really feel about being pregnant for someone else, but the main thing is hear the other experiences, because I think that's the biggest convincing piece of information that a person could get.
Absolutely. We always talk about, you mentioned this is not my baby. How or the first thing you hear is I want to be a surrogate, but I could not give up that baby.
Right.
I couldn't. Obviously, our surrogate mothers have to be in the right mind of knowing that this is not your child, genetically not related to you. It's somebody else's baby. You're basically the oven to their bun and all that. But what tips would you give a surrogate mom to kind of get into that healthy state of mind and stay disconnected from this pregnancy in a healthy way? I mean, some connection is important and is needed.
Obviously, yeah.
But how do you disconnect so when it's time to give birth and make that family complete, you're still a whole and well?
Right.
What would your suggestion be?
I think the most important part is the interaction with the intended parents.
Yes.
Because I think not always is there an evaluation, a joint evaluation, but many of the clinics
a joint group between the surrogate mom and the intended parents.
Right.
We try to require, but you're right, not many clinics require.
But I think that's a very good idea, because if there's that connection there, and then that connection grows as they interact throughout the pregnancy, I think that just formalizes, finalizes, firms up the bond, and this is the purpose to make these people, give them this great gift.
Yes.
And I think that just keeps it very clear why the surrogate is carrying and who she's caring for. That the nature of that relationship can be so important.
Why do you think people don't get, some people don't get it? Oh my God, you're caring for somebody else. How could you?
Yeah.
And you're just going to give them the baby and I can't do it. I wouldn't. Why? Why? I mean, to me, the concept is so basic.
Right.
So simple. But why is it so hard for some to understand,
Yeah, I guess... there's sort of a whole stigma.
Another one. We're back into the stigma. Yeah, we're back into the word stigma.
And you can just give it up.
Just give it up. Yeah.
So I think there's part of that, and some people they have the mindset: if I carry this baby, I could never let go of it. So that person would never choose to be a surrogate.
That's true. That's true.
And so that's really not an issue. And the ones that
that's true.
That by the time they get to me, I feel like people
have
already screened them pretty
whatever
anyway.
Whatever we missed, I hope Janice will find.
Right.
If we missed anything,
So I think they're very clear by the time they get to me, and we discuss it further. And they are people who, just have a real empathy for someone who, for whatever reason, can't have a baby on their own. And I think that again, the relationship with the intended parents just makes that clearer and clearer as the pregnancy progresses. And then the birth, all that, just the joy. I think seeing the joy in the parents' faces just caps it off.
And I think that's one of the biggest reasons surrogates will come back. Our surrogates come back and do it again. I mean, you can only describe it so much when you are not in it. But once it happens, it's life-changing. And you're like, okay, I made that happen. I did that.
That's right.
And I'm capable of doing it again. And it's just incredible. I think it's amazing when our surrogates come back for a second time.
Yeah,
we obviously never ask our surrogate right after the birth, because you're going to be like, no, I don't think so. So we give it another 6 months, and they're like, hey, I've
had some that were just said they were raring to go as soon as they gave birth, because it was such a fabulous experience.
Funny,
I knew it was going to be great, but I had no idea
it's going to be this amazing.
Good, so.
We've had a couple that actually, while they're pregnant, they're like, I'm doing this again. Okay, will you deliver? Deliver. But I love it. It's yes, that's amazing. Well, I think we covered a lot of ground with this episode.
Well, this, as I say, this is happy work.
Yes.
This is the best kind of work a psychologist can
It's
have.
a lot. It's a lot of work, but once it comes together, it's amazing. It's incredible.
It's such a happy purpose.
Yes. Yes, we love it. Janice, thank you so much for coming. You got any plans for the holidays? Are you going anywhere?
We'll be doing some traveling right after the holidays.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited that you could make it and you could be part of this. The last episode is going to be, this is the last one, the 6th is in December, and that's how we're going to close 2018. We are going to be doing a recap about the episodes that we've had, the guests that joined us, and if you have any suggestions on maybe next year, we are so excited. This was going to be like a one-time thing, and it's been just so amazing and so exciting to have so many guests that share their perspective. So I always appreciate you guys tuning in, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year, and we'll see you in December. I want to see you, is it right before Christmas or after Christmas? After Christmas. We're going to see you after Christmas. So be naughty, be nice, make a good choice. Have a great day, and we'll talk soon. Bye.